Give me privilege or else. We have some knock-on-knock action, apparently, according to Radar Online. Prince Andrew threatening to write bombshell tell-all about King Charles unless his royal paychecks are reinstated. As always, I leave it for you to determine the veracity of the material, but it would appear that as a consequence of King Charles asserting control over his brother, Prince Andrew, by withdrawing certain privileges for him by way of financial support, that this threat to control has not, understandably, gone down well with Prince Andrew, and his response is, rather than to suck it up and assert control over his brother by smearing him, the indirect assertion of control, or by thinking badly of him and jettisoning him through the third assertion of control by staying in a position of withdrawal, he has instead issued a threat. Now, threats are interesting things when it comes to narcissists. To break it down in simple terms, although I've done specific work about this, which you can go into greater detail by watching the appropriate video, lesser narcissists only tend to act on the threat if you're in their immediacy, meaning you've got to more or less be there for them to cause them to act upon the threat that they're issuing. Mid-range narcissists love using threats because they allow the assertion of control and the drawing of fuel with very little effort. The power is in the issuing of the threat rather than its execution. Greater and the ultra don't issue threats. There might be a veiled one, an arched eyebrow perhaps as a consequence of a response, but generally the reputation of the greater and the ultra goes before them, so that the relevant victim knows that there could well be repercussions for their conduct. Greater and the ultra don't issue threats because it's pointless to do so, because it puts your victim, the enemy, on alert, puts them on guard. And instead what we do is get you out of left field so that you know who's behind it, but it'd be very difficult for you to prove it. And it's part of that assertion of control where essentially it is unnecessary to issue the threat, and all that happens is that assertion of control is effected through action when you're least expecting it. The narcissists that use threats the most are lesser and, most of all, mid-range. And whilst Prince Andrew sits within the category of being an upper lesser, he will utilise threats himself from time to time as a means of trying to assert control, draw fuel, and here acquire a residual benefit in terms of the reinstatement of financial support and privileges. The article explains, conniving Prince Andrew has been privately threatening, well, not that private, is it? It's out in the news, to humiliate his royal relatives by airing out their dirty laundry in an embarrassing tell-all. I wonder where he's got the inspiration from that from. As you may know from parts passing, he apparently had been studying the Harry and Harry's wife's business model, such as it is. Therefore, he may have taken some hints in terms of, okay, extortion seems to work, I'll go down that route. So therefore, he's threatening to humiliate his royal relatives by airing out their dirty laundry in an embarrassing tell-all, unless his brother King Charles does not restore his palace paycheck and privileges. People thought Prince Harry's memoir was bad, but what Andrew can reveal about certain members of his family would blow the lid off, spilled an insider. And that's undoubtedly going to be correct for two reasons. Firstly, Andrew's much older and therefore has been around the royal family for longer, and also he's been far more involved during a period of time of the royal family where certain things have happened, and he will have knowledge about those things as a consequence of being amongst the inner circle of the royal family. According to a source, the disgraced Duke of York, 63, has an axe to grind against Charles. Undoubtedly he has. The recent assertions of control that Charles has manifested towards his brother naturally threaten Andrew's need for control, and therefore his narcissism is causing him to have to fight back against it. Charles booted his sibling from his cushy digs in Buckingham Palace, and Apparently, the Duke of York is prepared to unleash sordid details about the monarch, such as his many indiscretions during his doomed marriage to the late Princess Diana. Diana, Princess of Wales. Of course, it's no surprise that there would be such indiscretions as a consequence of the behaviour of a narcissist. Sources said vengeful Andrew may even address long-standing rumours about the king's flings with other men, more than 6 years after Charles 74 was spotted puckering up with a much younger guy. Now, of course, this may just be scurrilous rumour, but there may also, of course, be some truth in this, because, of course, many narcissists are sexually fluid. The article continues by stating, Andrew has access to information that could prove embarrassing to Charles, and indeed the whole family, said the source. He could uncover details about his father, Prince Philip's ties to Hitler's Nazi regime, and he wouldn't be unwilling to spill the darkest secrets held by his own mother, Queen Elizabeth. The spy said Andrew resents Charles for acting high and mighty when he's really a hypocrite for marrying Diana in 1981 and continuing to carry on with Mistress Camilla Parker Bowles, who'd later become his wife and Queen Consort. Again, of course, unsurprising to find such hypocrisy being exhibited by a narcissist. And, of course, Prince Andrew will have no emotional empathy for his brother, is naturally out for himself, and the way that he's been treated so far by King Charles amounts to threats to control, and therefore it's unsurprising that he responds in the way that he does. Before Elizabeth's death last year, the Queen had stripped her favourite son of his royal duties due to his reputation being tarnished by his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. The pervert financier was found lifeless in a New York City jail cell in 2019 while awaiting his sex trafficking trial. Authorities ruled Epstein died by suicide. Yeah, right. But other investigators believe he was murdered. Andrew was later dragged to civil court by former Epstein sex slave Virginia Giuffre, 39, who said the late money man served her up to the depraved Duke, who she said raped her when she was just 17. The royal outcast denied the charges, but still coughed up a hefty settlement to avoid being dragged to court. Since Charles assumed the throne, the king has ignored Andrew's pleas to be fully reinstated in the family, nullification of threat to control. So Andrew may resort to arm twisting to get his way. Andrew feels he's suffered enough, and he'll make others suffer if they don't heed his warning, explained the source. He's hell-bent on saving his tattered reputation, and a tell-all book seems like the way to go. If and when it gets published, he'll be taking down a lot of people, including the head of the British monarchy, said the source. Now, of course, it's doubtless the case that he's been inspired by the conduct of Harry's wife and Harry, so once again, her behaviours have had an impact with another aspect of the royal family. But what we see here, of course, is that as King Charles asserts his authority and his control upon his brother, it threatens his brother's sense of control, which results in him issuing threats of this nature. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.